Hello and welcome to Mad About Sports for yet another live stream. And today we're going to be talking about World Cup team previews. So we're going to be starting off by talking about all the teams in the World Cup. And this edition we're going to be talking about the defending champions. So no better team to start off the preview by talking about defending champions, and it is England, obviously. So they are the most informed team, the most favorite, the champions of the T20 World Cup, champions of the 50 over World Cup, and they've been in red hot form now leading into this World Cup as well. So obviously there are some big names in that squad. Josh Butler will be leading. That's the difference from the last edition's World Cup. Owen Morgan has definitely announced his retirement. So Josh Butler will be leading his first ever 50 over World Cup. So that is a major change. And when we talk about his form in India, we know about how he loves playing in these conditions, in Indian conditions, considering his IPL form and everything else surrounding it as well. Now, when you talk about the English national team, now from the 50 over World Cup in 2019, they've got a lot of similar faces. You can say one of the big miss from the 2019 World Cup is definitely Jofra Archer. He's missed out due to injuries. Of obviously, he's been in and around for the last 2 to 3 years. He's not been a regular member in the English national team as well in all three formats. So that is going to be the major miss to start off by talking of. Now, when you talk about the English national team, I'm going to put the squad up on the screen to start off with. Now, if you see the squad, it's Josh Butler, captain. Moeen Ali is there. Gus Atkinson, a very impressive player, played well in the 100, did well for England the recent past as well. Harry Brook, who got an entry, replacing Jason Roy in the squad because Harry Brook was not part of the provisional squad, which is announced by England earlier on. Then Sam Curran makes a cut as well. Sam Curran has been very impressive in the white ball format for England. If you look at the T20 World Cup, man of the tournament performance. Then we now when we talk about Liam Livingston, X Factor play for England, David Milan, Adil Rashid, who retains the spot from the 2019 World Cup. Then Joe Root. He's not been the best of forms in the white ball format, but definitely is going to be an integral member in this squad. Then Ben Stokes, who have come out of retirement as well. He did announce his retirement from the 50 over game, but right before the World Cup, he has made his comeback and he's going to bring 184 against New Zealand. Now, there's already sent shockwaves as to what Ben Stokes can do in a big stage. Now, when we talk about big game temperament, a true match winner, Ben Stokes is right up on the list. Now, then you can talk about Reece Topley, the left arm angle which he brings it to. Another player is David Melville as well, who's going to be a very important member of the squad if you talk about it. Hi, Manish. I hope you're doing good. Welcome on the stream. So that is a very important factor if you look into it. David Willey, who can off a little bit with the bat on days. If Sam Curran is injured, I think a likely replacement for Sam Curran is going to be David Willey. But definitely, Sam Curran offers a lot more with the bat in comparison with David Willey. But there can be days when David Willey and Sam Curran can play in the same team as well. But at this point, I see David Willey as a replacement for Sam Curran. Then obviously we have Mark Wood, Shea Pace, and Chris Wokes. Now, if you talk about England's squad, now what is up on the screen for you? Now, if you see a lot of these names, they did feature in the 2019 World Cup. Most of them are regular starters in their respective IPL teams as well. Now, what is the biggest names out there in IPL teams? We're talking about Johnny Bairstow. Or this season, Harry Brook did play a good season of IPL. Liam Livingston, Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes not featured a lot in this IPL this time around, but yeah, Ben Stokes could be massive as well, who's had enough Indian condition experiences. Then you talk about Mark Wood, who did really well in the IPL in the limited opportunities he got. Then David really did feature in the IPL. Reece Topley did feature for one game in the IPL. Both Reece Topley and David really played for the same franchise in Bangalore. And then you have Moeen Ali, who's been a consistent performer in the IPL as well. And then you talk about Josh Butler, who's been a phenomenal star in the IPL. So that is obviously a big factor for English national team. Now, when you talk about this particular team, especially in this World Cup, number one, what they have is plethora of IPL experience. And the last 4 years, when you talk about it, though they did not tour India in a big series, in a white ball series, as much as they would like to, they did tour in 2021 for three-match one-day series. That was the last time they toured India for a white ball series after the 2019 World Cup. But after that, they did not really tour India. So that is, you can say the white ball experience playing in subcontinent was slightly lacking for this team, but definitely not when you consider their IPL experience. Now, T20 format and 50 format, I know there's a lot of difference in the game, but then, it's still about acclimatizing to the conditions. You can say there's no better team than the English national team when we talk about acclimatizing to the conditions and a team which can possibly poses a lot more threat to other teams in comparison to any other team coming from the same nations. Now, when you talk about England, one of the biggest strengths is definitely now if you talk about their attacking bowling. Now, if you talk about their bowling, we have to talk about Adil Rashid's effect here. England have a solid squad. Obviously, England have a very solid squad. It's also because of the batting depth they possess. Now, when you talk about the team, you can definitely understand Johnny Bairstow is going to be a sure shot starter in this team. Obviously, he's going to open the batting. Now, the biggest question is who's going to open with Johnny Bairstow. Jason Roy was in the contention. Now, as of now, from whatever we see, it's going to be David Milan, and Joe Root is definitely going to be at number 3 for this team. And number 4 is definitely show in for Ben Stokes. So the top 4 is almost set. Now, the concerning part in this is how long can Joe Root not score? If Joe Root starts scoring runs alongside David Milan, who can give them solid starts, that is a good top 3 to go into this World Cup in subcontinental conditions. And at number 4, you have someone like a Ben Stokes walking in. I think Ben Stokes is not going to offer a lot with the ball, considering his injury factors here and there before the World Cup. So he's going to be playing as a proper batter throughout, maybe for the majority of the tournament. So he's a number 4. He's going to be a showing at number 4 for the same. I don't think Ben Stokes should bat anywhere less than number 4 other than top 4 for any of the white ball teams as well, because he prefers batting there. He can bring his A game, maybe given 25, 30 overs to walk in and bat, and he's got another gear as well up his sleeve. So he can come in and change the game very quickly. But nowadays, what you've seen with Ben Stokes is that in the white ball format, at least he likes to take his time in the middle. He likes to play in for the first 10, 20 balls, then he likes to get going. So obviously, one factor when we talk about this team is this, that Ben Stokes is a massive factor in this team. And then when we talk about other players as well. Now, when we talk about other players, at number 5, you will have Josh Butler. Josh Butler is a sure starter for this team. There is no two ways about it. Now, when we talk about Josh Butler, the biggest strength what he brings into this team is a middle order impact. Now, when we talk about Josh Butler, the T20 format is a different player. He likes to go out and set the tempo. But when we talk about Josh Butler, in the white ball format, especially the 50 over format, he has done a phenomenal job batting at number 5 for them, where he can control things in the middle. He can come in and shift. A player who can come in and get going from ball 1. And he's a solid player to have at number 5 for this team, and that's where he's going to be a very important factor. And number 6 for this team, if you look at a possible playing 11, Liam Livingston walks into this team. He's going to be that X factor player who can be used as a floater in this batting order as well. If England gets off to good starts, if England are one down for in 35 overs, there's one player who can be sent up the order. That is Liam Livingston, who can go in and change games. He's got a prolific game against spinners, where especially taking on the wrist spinners, he can go in and do that. So on days when they have to take down a particular wristy of the game, he is going to be used as a one player in that lineup as well. So him at number 6 is going to be a floater, and he can offer a lot with the ball as well. Now, if you look at the top 7, if you look at the top 6 already, there is good 10 overs with the ball. That is excluding Ben Stokes with the ball. Joe Root can offer 4 overs on a day when it's turning, especially when they're going to be playing in surfaces like Lucknow. And then when you talk about other teams, now when you talk about where they're going to be playing, they're going to be playing on surfaces which might just aid a spin a little bit more. That's where Joe Root is going to offer a little bit with the ball. And if Ben Stokes starts balling, that is good enough with the ball. And Liam Livingston can also ball. That's 10 overs with the ball. You can say Liam Livingston can maybe offer 6 overs a good day. Joe Root can offer 4 to 5 overs on a good day as well. So that 10 overs in the bank, that's excluding Ben Stokes. Now, if Ben Stokes starts balling in this World Cup, that's 15 overs to 17 overs with the ball, what they have in the bank in the top 6. Now, that's a good luxury for someone like a Josh Butler to walk in to this World Cup with. So that is the biggest strength for this English team. Now, if you look at their top 6, and number 7, you have Moeen Ali. He's going to give you a lot with the ball. He can be used as a floater in this batting attack again. Now, if you saw in the test matches in the Ashes, you saw Moeen Ali used as number 3, and you have seen in the IPL as well. He uses a number 3, number 4 on days where you have to tackle a left arm spinner or leg spinner. You can definitely use someone like a Moeen Ali up the order, and he can be someone who can be used as another floater in this team, another 7 to 8 overs with the bank with this team. So on a good day, he can ball 10 overs as well. So that is where top 7 of this English team has got solid 17 overs to 20 overs in the ball. And then you can talk about the all-rounders or the bowling all-rounders to start with. Number 1 on the list is Sam Curran, definitely. Sam Curran's one-day form is to be yet seen, because Sam Curran has been phenomenal in the T20 format for England. But when you talk about his one-day form and playing in smaller grounds in India, That is going to be a major issue for Sam Curran. How is he going to cope up, and at what stage is Josh Butler really going to use him? Because Josh Butler will have to get the most out of Sam Curran in this World Cup. Now, if England has to have a good World Cup, Sam Curran will hold a major factor in that, because no Jofra Archer, so he's going to be the bowler who might share a lot of load towards the death overs as well. At the same time, in the middle overs, picking up wickets and controlling runs towards the back end. So Sam Curran, and also his exploits with the bat. Another player who can be used as a floater, but I see him bat nothing more than number 7. He's going to be used at number 7, number 8 for this team. Crucial runs for him, and I think he's going to be a massive factor in this team as well. Now, if you look at the other players, one of the major players in this number 9 who's going to walk in is Chris Wokes. Another player who can bat a little bit, can offer a little bit with the bat, and also he's going to be massive with the ball. He's going to share the new ball duties for this English team, and he's going to be massive for them. Is a spell up front who's going to pick up wickets, not just picking up wickets, but at the same time, maybe set their tone, picking up those wickets in the power play. He's going to maybe share the duties with Sam Curran or Mark Wood in the team. With Mark Wood's injury concerns here and there, maybe Mark Wood might not feature in all of these schemes. Now that is where Chris Wokes' duty in this team becomes even more potent. Now Chris Wokes will have to be used very well by Butler once again. He's going to be used as that enforcer up top. In the front load this English bowling with a lot of wicket taking options and pick up those wickets in the power play, so they don't have to really worry about the brunt of things towards the latter on the middle stage. Now at number 10, a player which will really walk into this team is Adil Rashid. Can offer a little bit with the bat on days, but more than that is wicket taking ability to the middle overs. 10 overs, a show in, and with 10 overs, the wicket taking option, one of the major factors to their World Cup success in 2019 as well. If you look at that cycle from 2015 onwards to 2023, Adil Rashid has been a vital cog in their wheel, and there is no two ways about it. Because if you look at the way in which Owen Morgan has used him throughout the last 5 years before that 5-year period from 2015 to 2019-20, you can say that he's been used as a primary bowler to pick up wickets. The field set what he had, the dimensions how he used to use, and that's where Adil Rashid playing in Indian surfaces is going to be a massive factor. Now that is where I also feel, for English team, they have to be very wary of what they're going to be doing. They're going to be getting conditions which are going to be slightly different to what they have in England, but at the same time, that experience of Adil Rashid playing in conditions like India, it's going to be massive for them. As they start their first home game against India tomorrow, it's going to be interesting to see how Adil Rashid goes about it, because he might have to bowl under dewy conditions at times. Now that is where the challenge is going to lie for this English team, as to how they're going to be in these dewy conditions. Can they really cope up? Can Adil Rashid really give them that extra bit of grip throughout? Now, if you look English team, they start off their first match against New Zealand in Ahmedabad, then they go to Dharamshala. Now, that is where it's going to be really interesting for them. If you talk about Dharamshala, you can expect quite a lot of dew in those conditions, and it's going to be a high scoring ground. And I think in flatter surfaces, England will always fancy the chances. It's against Bangladesh, and England will start as favourites, and then they go to play Afghanistan in Arun Jaitley Stadium in Delhi. That's going to be an interesting game for a lot of reasons, because if the pitch is going to turn a little bit, how are English batters going to cope up with the turning conditions there? I know they can always outbat the opposition because of the powerhouse of batting they've got, but can they continue playing in one certain gear in those conditions, especially where the ball is going to turn and grip a little bit? And obviously, they play another high scoring venue, that is Wankhede against South Africa. Because if you look at the first 3 games, they're going to be playing in first 4 games rather. They're going to be playing in two high scoring surfaces, or 3 maybe, if you even count in Ahmedabad, except the Arun Jaitley Stadium game which they have against Afghanistan. They're going to be playing in Ahmedabad, Dharamshala, and then Wankhede. So this is where England will fancy their chances to outbat oppositions, and then they play in Chinnaswamy. Now the high game against Sri Lanka, England will certainly fancy their chances because of 2 main reasons. England will believe this is where their batting powerhouse can absolutely come into fore. Now that is where first 5 games they would want to set a tone. If they get 4 out of 5 wins in the first 5 games, they'll be flying high by the time they come against India. They play against India towards the latter end of October. Now they play in Lucknow. Now what you saw against India in Lucknow in the IPL was, you saw a turning surface, a red soil surface, or even the black soil surface was holding on a lot, and the ball wasn't really coming onto the bat. It was possibly the worst surface to play cricket on, as quoted by many of the pundits. So if at all it's going to be a turning surface against India in Lucknow, they still will fancy a chance. Now that is where their spot timers will come into play, likes of Joro, likes of Liam Livingston, Adil Rashid. That's what they can possibly use a lot of spinners. Now that is going to be their biggest strength of using these spinners. But once again, it will come down to the very fact that how Adil Rashid is going to set the tone for them in these kind of surfaces. If Adil Rashid can go out there and pick up those wickets against India in Lucknow, they'll really be a team to beat. Because even for India, they'll believe they'll have their strong three spin combination, Ashwin, Jadeja, and Kuldeep, if the pitch is going to turn. But for England on the other end, they will certainly believe with Adil Rashid, Joro, Liam Livingston, they've got a potent bowling attack to maybe control the runs, and they've got the variations as well. Now, if you talk about Chris Wokes, if you look at that team, they've got Chris Wokes with the variations, they've got Reece Topley with the variations that you want to bring in. The biggest strength for this team is going to be how they go about it, especially if you talk about in these conditions where the ball is going to hold on a little bit. This is going to be about how they go about how they really fancy a challenge in tougher conditions. If the ball is going to grip at all, that is going to be an interesting thing to watch. Then they play against Australia, and that is going to be an interesting game as well. Now, if you talk about Australian game, that is again they play against Australia in Ahmedabad. So they will be back to Ahmedabad after their first game against New Zealand. They'll be back to Ahmedabad again. So that is going to be their biggest strength. The games against Australia, India, that week of games are going to be where they're going to really maybe will have to peak at the right time, as you say in the tournament. That is going to be their biggest challenge towards the end. And towards the latter end, they play Netherlands and Pakistan. Pakistan will be in Eden Gardens, another high scoring surface, another quick wicket to watch out for. So for England, if you look at this point, they are going to be much more comfortable in comparison to any other teams because they'll believe they're playing most of the games on surfaces which will suit their batting. Wankhede, Chinnaswamy, Ahmedabad, Dharamshala, and majority of the first 7 games are going to be playing in high-scoring venues. Now, barring the game against India and Lucknow, we still do not know what the pitch in Lucknow has to offer. From whatever we've heard, they've relayed the pitch, relayed the conditions in Lucknow, so that it will be slightly more high-scoring. It won't be where the ball is struggling to come onto the bat. If at all, if the things and reports are true, it's going to be very interesting for England as well. For England, they will fancy their chances in all these games, including the game in Lucknow, because they will believe that they will want to outbat India. And considering India's struggle against spin in the recent past, they will fancy their chances against an Indian team to really show what their part timers can do. Joe Root, remember, Joe Root has picked up a 5 for against India in a test match as well. So he is not going to be marked with the ball. And also, now when you talk about someone like Liam Livingston, he can do both the variations. That is 4 overs now, counting Moeen Ali as well. Now they've got 4 solid spinners in their starting 11, including Adil Rashid, Moeen Ali, Joe Root, Liam Livingston. They can all trouble India on a given day. So that is where they will really believe they've covered almost all bases, considering all conditions, and in other conditions where they will have to use pace and where they can outbat teams. Conditions like Wankhede, especially where they'll be playing Sri Lanka. Now that's a good thing. They're not playing against spin-friendly teams on conditions where they can really be tested against spin, especially against teams like Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. Against Bangladesh, they're going to be playing in Dharamshala where it's not going to turn. Against Sri Lanka, they're going to be playing in Wankhede. But Afghanistan game, if all the Arun Jaitley Stadium pitch turns, that's going to be slightly tricky for them because that's going to be one challenging game. If you look at the top 4 games to start off with, then if you go back, then they play in Lucknow as well as I mentioned. Then Netherlands is going to be should be an easy walk. We still do not know how the game is going to be, but Netherlands and Pakistan are 2 games which will be happening towards the end of the tournament. Pakistan is the last game for them. That is going to be happening in Eden Gardens towards the end of the tournament. By that Pakistan game, the result or the qualification should be possibly sealed for either of the teams. So I don't really see that Pakistan game to be a major issue in their qualification circumstances at all. But yeah, if you talk about the conditions, they'll be playing in Eden Gardens, another good high scoring venue. That is where I think England, with their powerhouse of batting, will come and out bad teams, and that is going to be their strength. All these venues, if you look the way they could be playing, they're going to be playing in Dharamshala, in Ahmedabad, in Eden Gardens, in Chinnaswamy, in Wankhede, as I mentioned. So these venues are high scoring surfaces, and this is where English batting will come into fore. And also the Ahmedabad one. Ahmedabad, I think they're playing a couple of matches in Ahmedabad, including the first match and the game against Australia. Two big matches for them against New Zealand and Australia. They are going to be playing in Ahmedabad. If they can maybe win two of them, that's going to be massive for them. And maybe get a win here in Wankhede. And if they can go out to defeat India in Lucknow, that's going to be a massive bolster for them if you look at their tournament progression. And then come the semi-finals, they will be fancying the chances once again. Remember, the two of the semi-finals, if they qualify into the semi-finals, will be played in high-scoring venues. They're going to be playing in venues which are going to be high-scoring once again. They're going to be playing in Mumbai or in Eden Gardens, depending on where they finish in the table. So if they're playing India, they're going to be definitely playing in Mumbai, or else they're going to be playing in Eden Gardens. So another two grounds, as I mentioned, already they're going to be playing games there. So for England, if you look, this World Cup has been really, really suited to their strength, which is the batting strength. Flatter surfaces, start of the season, you would really expect, even the ball jabs around a little bit up front, I think their ballers would be very much handy to pick up wickets and put the oppositions under trouble. What can be the worst possible scenario for England? Now, it'll be a big surprise. It's a big surprise if England doesn't make it to the top four in this World Cup because they've got a well-rounded squad. As I mentioned, they've got good bases covered when it comes to all-round positions. They've got spinners on a spinning surface. They can unleash four spinners. Then they've got pacers in Sam Curran. They've got Mark Wood, Chris Wokes, and then they've got bowlers like David Willey and Reece Topley who can come into the playing 11. And then when we talk about Ben Stokes, if he starts bowling, that's a massive up for them as well. So if you cover all these bases, they've got a squad to actually, they are the squad to beat at this point. Now, they are the toughest team in the tournament. They will be playing the warm game against India to start off with tomorrow. Now, if England starts off well in this tournament, then all the teams will be eyeing to beat England. And that's why, if you talk about all the favorites of the tournament, England will be a number one pick for all the pundits. Now, considering India are playing at home, despite of even that, England will be the favorites to defend the title. Not just because of their white ball dominance in the last 7 years, because of the squad balance they've got. They've got a balanced squad which has been doing phenomenally well. We talk about the batting, but their bowling has been a very underlying thing in this in this campaign of the last 8 years. Wherever they've gone, the bowling has done exceptionally well as much as the batting. Now we don't talk enough about an Adil Rashid, Chris Wokes, a Sam Curran, a Mark Wood, the impact they can make. Understandable that Jofra Archer is going to be a big miss in their team, from the last World Cup, but I don't think that's going to affect them as much as what people expect them to, because the Mark Wood factor, he can play for 7 out of 9 games, or at least 6 out of 9 games. That's going to be massive for them. He can be rested against smaller teams. He can be rested right before, once they've qualified into the semifinals. He can be given that rest. So it's going to be how they use Mark Wood as well. If Mark Wood can stay fit and give them 10 overs day in and day out, I think it's going to be massive. And he's going to be one of the major factors to their title defense. If Mark Wood can pick them wickets in the middle overs and up front with the ball, he is going to hold the aces for England's success in this World Cup, because he's a bowler. He's going to be a tearaway fast bowler. He can trouble the batters. But the only issue for Mark Wood in this World Cup is going to be the smaller boundaries. Now, if you talk about Wankhede, if you talk about Chinnaswamy, or even Ahmedabad for the matter, the square boundaries are slightly shorter. Now, if a good batting team can use his space and maybe he can get those stoppage, it will fly away in India. Now, that is going to be the biggest issue for England. Now, when they play in Australia, even to an extent in England, though there are smaller grounds, the dimensions can be used better in English conditions in comparison to what you can use anywhere else in the world. So that is where for England, the biggest issue is going to be how they use a tearaway fast ball like Mark Wood. Can it really come into an effect in grounds like Indian conditions? Because the ball will travel fast, especially Mark will have an experience of how he has played in the IPL. The ball does travel quite fast. And to add to the very fact that, when you talk about other factors as well, dew, now that is a massive factor when you talk about later on in October and early onset of winters as well, where they're going to be playing. They're going to be playing in Ahmedabad, they're going to be playing in Eden Gardens. These conditions, the dew factor is going to be massive. It's about how they control the dew factor and maybe defense scores. If they can defend scores consistently, or if Mark Wood can really come into factor and others can really come into effect in day and night games towards the latter end, if they can ball well, this is going to be a team to beat and they're going to be unstoppable once again. Now, finally, let's look at the recent form. Now, if you look at the recent form since the 2019 World Cup, they played 43 games. You can look at the result and say, oh, they've not been the dominant side. But let's be very honest, they've not really played together unit, like what you saw in the 2015 2019 World Cup. That particular run, they were preparing for the 2019 World Cup. So they really played with their main squad almost in every game. But post 2019 World Cup, and with the COVID, with everything around, you can say a lot of these players were given a lot of rest. They were shifting here and there. A lot of them did not really feature in the 50-over format. A lot of them featured in the test format. Ben Stokes took retirement. Joe Root was not a major part of this team. Johnny Bairstow was injured. Geoff Archer wasn't there. Adil Rashid was not there. There were two T20 World Cups in between. So a lot of focus shifted onto the T20 side of things. And the one-day format was given a slight rest among this last 4 years. There were only 43 matches as well played. Now, if you look at last 4 year cycle, 43 matches, that's way too less games to leading into a big World Cup. But then, one of the major factor was COVID-19 in that. And then, if you talk about the recent series against New Zealand, oh, they were top notch over there, weren't they? Though there were occasions where they were put under pressure by New Zealand, they clawed their way back more often than not. And that is a hallmark of a team like England. They can claw their way back because they've got batting until 9. They can come back and win games from any position. Now, if you look at the record in India, as I mentioned, they played those 3 one-dayers in 2021 where they lost the series 2-1. But you saw signs of what this team can do. They really fought in almost every game they played. Remember one of the knocks from Sam Curran where they took it deep and Natarajan had to come and defend it towards the end for India. And that's what we're talking about, right? This team has got it in them to go out there and win games. And that is the biggest strength of this team. They can go out there and win games single handedly against any opposition. And when you talk about players like Ben Stokes, when you talk about players like Butler, Joe Root is yet to get going in the 50-over format. But once he starts to get going alongside Johnny Bairstow up top, this team can possibly cook very well for this World Cup. And that is why you can say they are the squad which will be rated 9 on 10 because of the balance they've got. And our rating from Madabout Sports is 9 on 10 for the squad. And they're definitely making the semi-finals. Their chance of making the finals are almost there. They've got 65 to 70% chance of making the semi-final as well. And they can possibly go on to win that they've got 35 to 40% chance to make defending the crown once again. Now that is where you can say they've got possibly one of the most balanced teams out there, and they are going to be the team to beat in this World Cup once again. Now, 9 on 10 for the squad balance and everything else. Thank you for watching this video once again, ladies and gentlemen. Do not forget to check out our channel because we'll be doing previews daily leading into the World Cup of more of these teams. So every day in the evening at 7:30, we will be live doing previews of every game, every team. Starting from England. Now we'll be talking about other teams as well. So do join us. Do let us know your comments, your thoughts, your playing 11 combinations. Who are your favorites? And also, don't forget to share our channel with as many people as possible and subscribe to our channel. And also at the same time, check out our Instagram page and check out our poster with Mad About Sports if you're new here. If you're an aspiring analyst who would like to call the shots by making all the strategy calls, Mad About Sports is your avenue. See you all. Take care and bye bye.